I've been doing quite a lot of these, so I'm trying to like
Have you?
process who's when, and like I've just finished one just now, and I'm on to the next one. But you were someone I really wanted to get on because you're someone that's really active, and um, I think this is a time where people need your knowledge and they need to. I mean, how have you found being stuck at home at the moment?
um, I have found it better than I thought I would. I thought I'd really struggle, but it's actually been okay. It's just I've just adjusted my routine a little bit and made sure that I've got some kind of movement in first thing in the morning, and then that's really helped me be as productive as possible with all my other work during the day. Um, it is weird not seeing clients in person, and it's weird not being so active. But I guess could definitely be in worse situations with where we live. Like it's not
Yeah,
a bad setup.
and that's
Not a bad setup.
I've said that to loads of people, like having like gardens and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
obviously people don't even have that. What? So are you like a personal trainer? Is that what you'd say you are, or?
Yeah. So my main thing is so I'm a head trainer at a boutique rowing studio called ROWBOTS, which is in central London. So I live in central London, but I've come back to my parents during this lockdown basically so I can have a garden. And yeah, so that involves so the whole studio concept is based around mental health. So we have mental health conditioning every single day, and the physical workout is programmed based on the mental health conditioning of the day, which has been amazing. So my job mainly consists of teaching classes, managing the team, growing the business there. I've got an amazing team there as well. They're so good. And then I also do one-to-one personal training and sports massage rehab based things. So everything is active. And then I work with Nike and I run a women's lifting workshop. So everything is active. Yeah, there's not really one part of my life that's not
Yeah, it sounds very
active.
busy. Like, was your schedule like so full before this all sort of locked down?
Yeah, it was I would rather go 100 miles an hour than zero, like any day of the week. So something that's actually been really good for me with the lockdown is learning to slow down and being better at slowing down, because it's something that I've never really been able to just sit and watch TV because I feel like I'm being really lazy, and I was like, right, what could I be doing instead? Um, so I've kind of chosen to take this time to enjoy the slowness a little bit. And well, like, no one can go 100 miles an hour at the moment. Like it's not possible to do it. So it's forced everyone to slow right down. And I think that's a really good thing. Like, I think it's really uh, beneficial for a lot of people. But yeah, it's been different for sure. It's been weird living with my family because I haven't done that in about 3 years. Um, but it's nice. Like it is really nice, and I'm fortunate to have them here, which is
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you bring loads of stuff? Like, do your family have stuff where you could like do classes from where you are now, or like stuff online where you can still communicate with people?
Yeah, so I was really lucky actually. My bosses essentially at Robots sorted me out a rower and loads of dumbbells and slam balls, and they even sorted out the delivery of it. So that got delivered to my flat in London. And then when we went on official lockdown, my parents wanted me to come home because, I mean, they're right. I probably would have gone crazy if I was just in a flat. Um, and I was like, right, I'll come home if we can bring the kit back with me because I need to be able to move. And I didn't think that it would happen. And then mum rang me. She was like, right, I've got a van. So they came up to London and we just put all the stuff in the van. And then, yeah, so I've got everything. Like, you don't need equipment to move during this time, but it's nice to have it. So yeah, I've got dumbbells, I've got a rower, I've got barbell, I've got plates, I've got a squat rack. So I've kind of got my own mini gym, which again, I know is a very fortunate position to be in. But if you've got your body weight, you've got, your body length space in wherever you are, you can still get good movement in and you can still train.
So
Yeah.
talking to clients a lot and still trying to do stuff, or have you sort of set stuff up where they can just do stuff by themselves?
So the majority of them, I've just given them like little programs and things to get on with. So the company that I work with, ROWBOTS, we do a live workout every day at 1:30. So I've said it to a lot of them that just jump on this and do that. And then a few of them contacted me asking for Skype sessions. So I've just been doing Zoom or Skype personal training sessions with them. And then I've also given them all little programs to be cracking on with. So some of them have equipment, some of them don't. So all of my clients are on bespoke programs. They've all got different goals. They've all got different bodies. Like, they all move differently. So they all have different programs when we train together in person. So they've all got different programs now. So yeah, I've set them all, well, the majority of them off. The ones who want it, I've given it to. The ones who just want to walk and do yoga, they don't really need me for. They just need me for accountability and to check in with. So that's what I'm there for. And they might want a bit more nutrition stuff, or so yeah, they've all got plans and they are all getting on with it. But I think because they have a PT, they all enjoy moving, and moving at least once a week is part of all of their routine. So they've struggled a bit, and I've had quite a few of them messaging me being like, I don't feel good, I need to do something, I need a plan, I need a routine. And I feel like that is the main thing that has helped me in the lockdown, is having a routine. And all of my clients and the majority of my friends, is just like, just because your normal routine isn't continuing, it doesn't mean you can't have a routine, full stop. And if you have a routine in place, you feel good, because you just have a little bit more control over a situation that we really have zero control over. And I think that helps reassure people quite a lot that they can survive a lockdown.
Yeah, I think I need to listen to that advice, because I run this website called Dropout, and we do like a lot of projects with students and charities, and just within the creative industry in general. And it's more of a passion project, so it doesn't bring a lot of money in. So before this, I was having to work full-time jobs and do this. So I was that life from doing like 9 to 5, and then also doing like probably like 6 to 10 at home working. But I don't have a 9 to 5 job anymore, because I was supposed to move to Canada for a bit to do some stuff there. So I quit my job, and then that fell through. So now I'm back without a job, and I'm waking up at like 11 a.m. Well, I woke up today because I had one of these phone calls at like, I think I had it at 11, and I woke up at 10, and it felt like it was like 6 in the morning. And I was like, I'd honestly gone from waking up at 5:30 every day for like the past year to then being like, why do I feel shit? And I do feel shit. Like I get what some of your clients might be feeling. Like, I tried to go out and run and stuff, but when you're doing it in dribs and drabs, like, yeah, there's no structure to it, and you know, you don't feel any better, you don't feel any progress. So I mean, it's interesting you say rowing. When I went to university, I thought, what's the last thing that anyone would expect me to do? And I did rowing for 2 years.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
How did you find it?
It was really like difficult. Like, I think the guys that I did it with didn't understand that I came from like such a non-athletic background. Like, I was kind of chubby, I had zero muscles at all. I'd have to do the odd kickabout, and I just became obsessed with it. I think, like you do with a lot of these things. And we did all sorts of things, like head of the river. We went to like Spain at one point, and all this stuff. And it just feels like a memory now, because I stopped it after 2 years, because that is rowing such like an all or nothing sport. Like, you don't jump in the boat to like have a play around. It's like a performance sport. And yeah, if you're shit or tired, it's not fun. So I don't do that anymore. And yeah, I'm feeling a little bit like back to the old ways of being a bit lazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
rowing is actually, I was going to say, rowing is one of the best sports for your mental health. There's studies that prove it as well. And I think also with rowing, it's a discipline that comes with it. Like, I didn't go to uni, but the people who I know that did, and they did rowing, they didn't go out, like they didn't do the nights out. They were really good with doing their work, because they had this structure and this discipline for being up at like 6 a.m. in December and going and rowing on the river. It's like, who wants to do it in that weather? But if you do that, you're going to revive. It's easy.
100%. And one of the guys I learned to row with is now in the GB squad, because a lot of people start at university, I think, and sometimes they just get these big lads that are just like kind of freaks, and they just take to it, which is really cool to see him. And I wanted to talk to him for this as well, because I don't think I have no idea. I didn't know if he was in contention for the Olympics or not. But I mean, that's a really interesting topic. for all these athletes that,
Yeah.
because you work around that 4-year calendar almost, and everything's geared
Yeah.
towards this one thing in 4 years, and now it's like that's not happening.
Yeah, I really feel for them actually. I've got a friend actually who rows for GB as well, and he's done really well with his. I mean, he's been in it for years, and then he's had a few injuries, and it's at the point now where it's like, well, do I continue this? And the Olympics is now being postponed, and like I'm only getting older, my injuries are getting worse. Like, is this something that I want to continue to do? And there are probably loads of athletes who are going through that mindset at the moment. And but I think when an athlete's on lockdown and they can't train, it's very different to someone who's just active, because that is all they know. All athletes know is being told what to do, when to do it. And as soon as that's taken away and they can't practice their craft anymore, I can imagine that's really difficult, because they dedicate their lives to it day in and day out. And then to suddenly not be able to do that, no, you can't even supplement that. Like if you're a rower, you can't just go for a run and get the same effect. Like it's very different. Whereas if you're used to being active and you go to classes and then suddenly you start doing at-home workouts, it's pretty similar. You're just not in a class environment. So I can imagine they're probably a caliber of people that are really struggling with the lockdown. But then
it's like you said, especially for those people that, yeah, this might have been their last chance to do it. You've got bad injuries, you're like, am I going to last another year? Like, if you're a bit older, and yeah, I'd really want to talk to someone that was gearing up towards the Olympics, because yeah, with doing this, like already I've talked to so many interesting people. Like the first guy was like a doctor, then we talked to like psychologists. There's a guy that lives in Korea that was really interesting, just to hear how they've sort of taken it all on. And it's kind of like I was saying when I first came on, kind of have to get my bearings, like, okay, who am I talking to now? But it's actually been so nice, and to share like just kind of a little bit of like expertise, like not like you're laying stuff out for people, but obviously you know stuff working, the way you have and the job you do. But I think people take something from, or at least people in similar circumstance. I mean, have other people that are like trainers or that you've worked with, how have they found it?
I think a lot of people have found it really hard. A lot of people in the fitness industry are self-employed, so their work has just stopped and their income has stopped. And quite a lot of my friends do teach in studios or they PT, and they just don't have that at the moment. So people are really worried, and I think as well with the industry, it's incredibly saturated. So the fitness industry is so saturated, and I know some incredible people in the industry, but I also know that there's quite a lot of information that gets thrown around that isn't quite true, and it's probably a bit more detrimental than it is beneficial. So this whole lockdown might help filter out the industry a little bit and just improve I mean, I know that personal trainers don't necessarily have a great rep, and I completely understand why, because I've been to places and I've seen some funky things, and you go, right, okay, that's why we don't have the best reputation. But there is a percentage of people who are really, really good at their job. And I think it would be a real shame if those people could no longer continue in the industry because this hits them so hard. But then on the flip side of that, I think those people are also very business minded, and they probably set themselves up pretty well for a situation like this, where they can survive a 3 to 12 week lockdown and still continue to do their job. So the majority of my friends are really positive about it, and that's probably why they're my friends, because they're positive people and they bring me up, and I love being around that. But I do know a few people who are really stressed and really worried about it. But we can't control it. Like we can't control what's going on. And I think the main thing is to focus on what you can control. And we talk about this all the time at work. Like, it's one of our mental conditioning days. It's like, how do you face uncertainty, like expecting the unexpected, and then just bringing that focus always back onto what you can control. So when this whole thing started, you're like, oh, wow, that's actually pretty relevant to everyday life now. And I think it really hit home for me months ago, because I used to spend quite a lot of time being like, well, why hasn't that person done that? And I would have done that by now. Whereas now I'm like, oh, okay, they haven't done it. That's fine. That's their way of doing it. Let me just focus on what I can control in this situation. So I think if you can bring that mindset into this, and you can control your movement, you can control your mindset, you can control your nutrition. Like, there are lots of things that you can put your focus into that are within your circle of control, rather than watching the news 24/7 and panicking about what's going to happen next. And I mean, I didn't feel stressed about the lockdown until the day they were like, right, tonight might be the night. I was like, okay, now I'll listen, because now this is really going to have an impact. And then I was stressed for about 5 minutes, and then I was like, right, okay, so what am I going to do about it? And I think it's just about getting into more of the solution-based mindset rather than the problem. And the people that I know who have that mindset are totally fine. And the people who I know who kind of like to dwell on problems, they're not so fine. So I think it's about kind of shifting the way you view it and the positives that you can take from it, rather than the pretty rubbish situation that it is.
I said it in one of these before. It's like a personality trait. Like, someone said to me once that, I'm like, they sort of said like, I'm that type of person in terms of like, I might do these things, take chances, and be outgoing with what I do. And I don't think it's fair to say, oh, you're just that type of person, because it is something you have to work on. And especially when you do something personal, it's like you can take quite a lot of hits. But yeah, I had the same thing as you. Like, I do lick my wounds, because I think it's important to recognize when you're feeling sad and down and why. But I'm quite quick to like dust myself off and be like, okay, what am I doing now? Hence why we started this project. Yeah. Normally we do articles, podcasts, and like workshops and things like that, which are very face to face a lot of the time. But we were like, okay, we've got Skype. Let's just see how many different people from different industries and all that we can talk to, and we'll do that. Yeah. Back on your feet. And it took me a while to appreciate with some people that they're not like that. They can be more hard hitting. And I think for a lot of people that were in a bad place before this happened, that's like really, really scary to think about. Like those people that were struggling, and they're like, oh, now I've got this to deal with as well. Like some virus never really happened in modern history. No. That's quite scary. I mean, you've talked about mental health a bit. For you, was it like, did you first start getting into this sort of thing for the physical side and like being and training, or was it the mental side first?
Yeah. So with my current job at ROWBOTS, I got into it because it was the mental health side, but with the fitness industry as a whole, I got into it because of the physical. Like sport was the one thing that I never deviated from growing up. It was the one thing I always loved. I always really looked forward to it. And like, at St. Bede's, it wasn't so cool to be sporty, and I found that quite hard because I loved it. It was like the one thing that I was like, yes, PE's next, or PE and maths. Like, they were the two things that I really enjoyed. I from the age of 7 really was when I got into running, and that was my first proper sport. And then from there, I just played sport forever. And I was an only child for about 7 years. So my dad raised me as a boy pretty much. So we'd always be in the garden, like kicking a football around, playing catch, just developing skills. And I loved it. So it's kind of been ingrained from a young age. And my brother's really sporty as well. So we get on really well and have always played sport together. So it was kind of the natural thing for me to go into. And I had a place at uni. Originally, I wanted to do maths. Then I changed to sport and exercise science. I was going to go. And then I went traveling. I was actually in a very funny place mentally. I was really, really underweight. And then when you're underweight, you get depressed, and it's all very linked in. And then I came back home from traveling and started working on that. And I went to therapy, which I think is amazing. I think I've had 3 different therapists, and they've all been really good in their own way. But I do think that therapy is beneficial, like no matter how good or bad your life is. Yeah, just talking to someone.
Yeah, I did
amazing
at one point, and like I think everyone needs to go through that. Just even if you're in a good space, it can make you appreciate that a bit more.
Yeah,
anything like that. I think because I've told people before. Mine was a few years ago when I left uni, and that's why this was called Dropout. And I remember I mentioned it with some of the lads from back home, and then I'd become so used to talking about it with like the therapist and with my girlfriend at the time that I blurted it out, and then people like looked at me like, oh.
Yeah, it's so taboo. It's so weird. It is so weird. Like, I remember even with my mum, like, and I love her to pieces, but to get a hold of therapy and why I loved it so much was a bit like, oh, you really like that? Like, why do you enjoy going to that? But yeah, it's amazing. I think it's something that you don't just go to once and then you leave it. It's like you can go back to it at any point throughout your life, and it just helps you understand yourself and understand other people a bit more. So, I mean, I know that growing up, I was very different to how I am now. And now I like to think that I do empathize a lot more than when I was a kid. But I mean, I think a lot of that is from going to therapy. But yeah, to answer your question, when I was traveling, I qualified as a yoga teacher, and this was all for the physical side. And then that was the first time I really got into the mental side, because there was a lot of philosophy. And I don't teach as much yoga now, but I'm not religious at all. But the philosophy of yoga is basically just be a good person. I was like, okay, that makes so much sense. And that really clicked. So when I got back, I had an amazing mentor who was a psychiatrist and also personal, like, he knew his stuff about training. He was a smart guy. Like, he went to Cambridge, he did doctor medicine, whatever. Like, he was a smart guy, and he helped me, without me realizing, get out of my own rut, and develop a craft that I loved. I'm the kind of person that I need to know why I'm doing something, and as long as I know why and I have an answer, I'm all for it. I'm also quite all or nothing. So he helped me understand why, and I think that's what really helped me get better. And then I just kind of fell into personal training, and I loved helping other people. But I think the thing that I loved the most was helping people change their lives. Like, I've worked with people who are kind of on the brinks of divorce, or people who have had miscarriages, or, you know, people who have got quite a lot of weight to lose, and because of that they feel really insecure, so then they might have bad relationships or have lost friends, or there's so many complications that come with performance and aesthetics that the majority of my clients now are women, and women in London who work really hard, and there's this, you know, there's a lot of equality stuff that is going on at the moment as well. And I think that training and feeling strong really helps build people's confidence, and that is what I love about my job. It's not really about changing people's bodies, it's changing how they feel about themselves, and then how that affects them. I think that's why a lot of my friends who are in the industry love their jobs as well. It's so much more than just changing someone's and then that in itself links into the mental health side. I think the powerful part of movement is how it affects your mindset, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. No, it's a long answer to your very easy question.
We could go to the same school, but we didn't know each other too well. And then I've seen like some of the stuff you've been doing, like, 'cause I follow you on Instagram and stuff. And I always love people like yourself that just followed their own path. Like, you didn't go to university and you've like gone all in on this like personal training thing, or and all the other like aspects of it. And that's what I love to see. Like, I know someone that's like recently tried to become a professional footballer, and they sort of left and went to like a different college, like all geared towards like that being their dream. And every time I saw them, I was like, yeah, sick, like, do it. Like, yeah. What's the worst that can happen? Like, people think you get to like 23, 24 and you're like old in a way. Like, you're still so young. You can chop and change like throughout your 20s of like what you want to do, and you might as well like choose things that you're actually interested in. So yeah, I saw you doing that, and that's sort of part of why I wanted to get you on here, because like, it can't be easy to finish. I went to uni just because everyone else did, to be honest. Like, and you were clearly those people that.
I think most people do. Yeah, and I think it is a conventional route, but it's like, it is beneficial if you know what you want to do. If you don't know what you want to do, uni is a great buffer, I'm sure. No good go. But I think if you know what you want to do and you need to go to uni to get into it, like medicine or law, then of course go. You know, if you don't really want to go and study that subject, it's a lot of time and it's a lot of money to go and invest in it for you to come. My cousin, for example, did history. She did really, really well, and now she's in marketing. And I'm like, that doesn't link up to me at all. And I know what does link up is that it shows your work ethic.
I did politics, and I'm like, why? Like, I'm not interested in it at all. I was just like, that was one of the things in my A levels I was like a bit better at. And it is, politics is interesting for anyone, I think, as you start to learn about like all the differences in it and like how it affects the world. And that's why I did it. And then, I just had this massive craving to be part of like the creative industry. And I look online at like all people creating stuff, like with the internet, you can create so many different things. And I was basically like, no, I don't want to write these essays anymore. Like, I don't want to do that. Yeah. And I left for a bit, and I did go back because I nearly finished my degree, and I thought, come on, let's see it off. But like the renewed energy and like purpose so well when I went back, because I actually now appreciate what I wanted to do, and you can start to like gear stuff towards your main goal. Like I know people that study like geology, and I'm like, mate, why the fuck did you do that? And they're like, I have no clue. They're not passionate about rocks or. I mean, I don't.
I know. It's a buffer, though, isn't it? And again, if you grow up somewhere like all the kids are going, and we're fortunate enough to have like great schooling that helps us go. And I think also for our parents' generation, it's like if you go, it's a real privilege. Like it sets you aside from other people. Where it's like now everyone goes. You have to do a master's and a PhD to set you above everyone else, and then even then, everyone else is now doing that. So what actually sets you apart is if you go and get a bit of experience in something that you think you might be interested in. Like, originally, I went to some experience at East Surrey Hospital, and I hated it. And I think that was actually, it was better that I didn't like it than if I did, because it showed me, right, don't go and spend 4 years of your life learning how to become a physio, because you really didn't enjoy that. But what I do love, so I do sports massage, and I like my kind of niche, my specialty, I guess, is fixing people's injuries. So rehab to improve their performance. And I have a lot of people who have like fractured this, that, and the other, and they'll come along, or they just want to squat better, or whatever it is. But it's based on their biomechanics. So I did sports massage, and I was like, this is the element of physiotherapy that I'm really interested in, is like working with the body and actually like feeling it, which sounds a bit weird, but like how the muscles work and what's going on. And I was like, okay, so I can just do that section. And I think a lot of the time there are like certain elements of things that people want to learn, and they don't need to go to uni for 3 or 4 years and learn the whole thing just to learn that 10% that they're interested in. There are courses that make you just as good at doing that. I mean, no, I'm absolutely not a physio, and I'd never compare myself to someone, but I know how to treat people in the area that I'm interested in. And I think you do have to be interested in what you're doing in order to progress with it, because if you're not interested, you're never going to want to invest the same amount of time into learning more about it. If you feel like you're having to do it, you're not going to stay in that career for a long time. You're definitely not going to do as well at it as if you were interested in what you're doing. And that makes sense to me, but I know that it's quite scary for people to buck the trend and do what they think they're actually interested in rather than following suit. And if your parents aren't self-employed, to decide to go down a self-employed route or a charity route is really scary, because your parents won't get it either. They probably won't get it, and then they might not support you, and then that's another battle. But I do think there's a lot to be said for just really listening to your gut and going with what you want to do, because it might be tricky short term, but long term it always works out. Well, that's what I've found anyway. It does work out. And I have had situations where I've had to battle my parents about not going to university for months. And now they're like, it's the best decision you've ever made. So it's definitely worth listening to what, like, only you really know what you want to do with everything, like university, training, movement, nutrition. You can never force someone to do something. Quitting smoking, like, you got to want to do it yourself.
What so it's important. One thing to motivate people to do? Like, is there a common like challenge? Like, is it quitting smoking or something like that?
people are really good at moving, but they are not as good with the food or the drinking. I think in London, I'm all for a night out, but I think it's really difficult for people to not drink as much as they're used to. And it doesn't provide any benefit to your body, whereas food does. Like, it gives you energy, it helps your muscle, blah, blah, blah. But alcohol doesn't. It's just a bit of it's not benefiting your body. So that is quite a hard one, especially with clients who are in things like recruitment, where they have a lot of client entertainment, and it is rude if you don't drink. So that can be a battle. But then I also drink myself, so I can't be a hypocrite and be like, no, don't do it at all.
I agree.
Moderate it.
That about drinking, I always think, like, why do we do it? Because it literally doesn't help us at all. And then, like, I said to my friend once, why isn't there a place where we can go and watch the football, but they have like nice chill food and we can have like a cup of tea or something? My friend was like, no one. And I was like, yeah, that is true. No one turn up.
Which was that?
Yeah, I struggle to stop drinking. And I'm not even like a big drinker, like, but I was talking, there was like an article in the Independent, like, maybe this quarantine will help Brits cut down on their booze, and like the Twitter thread, everyone was just like, nah, fuck off. We'll never stop. And I just craved beer as soon as I started reading it all. And I was like, oh, that's so bad.
Really?
Yeah, I want to be like the optimum human being, but like I'm definitely not. And in getting back to like when I said I did rowing, like I think that will surprise a lot of people, even people that I'm quite close with. And getting back to that is kind of intimidating. Like I used to do a lot of road cycling as like a form of like cross training then. And like I had this road bike, I sold it now, but it used to just kind of scare me looking at it, because I knew how difficult these things were. And I was like, I can't envisage my little belly getting back on these things.
You got to start somewhere.
You really do. And I think I should. Before we go, do you have any like tips or ideas like that people can quickly listen to whilst they're in isolation?
Yeah, I would say get a routine and make sure you do some kind of movement in the morning. So get out of the house and move in the morning. Like, it could be a walk, it can be a run, it can be like an at-home session. But I would make movement one of the first things you do. It does just set you up better for the day. You'll make better, then the nutrition and everything else will take care of itself. And I think in terms of entertainment, if you can watch comedy, it is so good for your mental health. It really helps reset your hormones. Laughing is great. Like, walking outside and laughing are two things that really help counteract depression. And I think it's probably quite easy to get depressed during these times. So if you can, first thing, get out, move, walk, run, whatever you do. And then in the evening, when you're doing entertainment, watch some kind of comedy. And that will probably be far more powerful than it sounds. But they would be my two top tips for sure.
All right. Thank you very much. I will. I'll check in with you some point soon when I'm back on it and I'm taking.
Yeah, let me know.
Yeah.
If you want to plan, hit me up.
Yeah, will do. Thank you, Tess.
You're welcome.
See ya.
Nice to see you. See you later. Bye. Bye.